What have been some of the biggest challenges over the course of the last 12, 18 months with Gateways delivering services and sort of maintaining its viability as an organisation in the Geelong community?
The parallels with any other business in the Geelong area are absolutely clear in the sense that we are a not-for-profit organisation by legal definition. The fact is that Gateways has had to professionalise or commercialise our approach, be more business-like. We needed to look at areas that were costing us money, that were dragging us down, so to speak, financially and threatening our financial viability. We've refreshed our board, and not to disparage previous board members, they did an absolutely unbelievable job, but the benefits that come with bringing new ideas and new contributions from directors help to improve the organisation.
We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
Welcome to Finances, your home for all things financial, investment, money and lifestyle. Hosted and curated by the very talented team of certified financial planners at Burke, Britton Financial Partners.
Let's start. So this is the Finances podcast, and I'm welcoming back a guest for their second episode, Rohan Braddy, CEO at Gateways. Rohan.
Hi, Jay.
Thanks for coming in. Sorry to keep you waiting today.
That's all good. Thanks for having us.
And also joining us today is James Rubeli, Chief Financial Officer at Gateways. Now, James, you and I have met before, but you haven't been on the podcast, so it's good to have you behind the mic today.
First time for the podcast.
Yeah. So maybe I thought I'd start with maybe a question. Maybe I'll start with you, James, given that anyone who wants to listen back to episode number 74, when Rohan and myself had a conversation about Gateways, we talked a little bit about our involvement, so Burke Britton's involvement with Gateways, which sort of goes back probably 5 or 6 years through our Future Generation program and some of the contributions that our clients have made to Gateways over the years. But I thought for the uninitiated, the people that haven't listened to that podcast, James, who are Gateways and what services do they provide?
Yeah, okay. So Gateway Support Services is a not-for-profit organisation with a head office based here in Geelong, with other offices around in Werribee.
Sorry, James, I might just get you moved just left a little bit. Perfect.
That's I was talking to you rather
that's
than
okay.
talking to the speaker. So, yeah, Gateway Support Services is a non-for-profit organisation based in Geelong, and we have other sites around. We effectively provide support or disability supports to our participants who obviously are within the community. We have a wide-ranging services. We have accommodation services. We have 30-odd houses that provide 24/7 care to our participants. We also have we run a lot of community services programs. We have what we call recreation, social connect. They're more so your day programs. We run camps. We also have a lot of inclusion programs, in particular kinder inclusion, behavioural support programs, individual support programs. So a wide variety of programs, but all in all, it's just to provide disability supports to the participants and the community that we serve. We're a non-profit organisation.
Now, Rohan, I said that people can go back to episode number 74, but maybe the history of Gateways. And when we had our first conversation, you were not long in the gig. You'd not long started as CEO. And I know we'll talk about some of the challenges over the last 12 months, but just quickly, the history of Gateways. When were they founded? How were they established? And what brought them up to where we are today in 2025?
Yeah, thanks, Jay. And talking about not being long in the role when I was here last, in some ways it feels like 5 minutes ago, and in some ways it feels like 15 years ago with the amount of change that's happened. But anyway, the Gateways started primarily as a service to support children who were presenting to local paediatricians and local GPs on the autism spectrum. 40 to 45 years ago now, the condition was very poorly understood, or at least not scientifically understood, diagnosed and assessed, and therefore there were almost no services and supports for parents with young children presenting on the autism spectrum. Dr. Bernie Jenner, AM, was one of our founders, and believe it or not, he's still on the board today, which I think...
I can believe that. I know Bernie.
I think it's an enormous testimony to our organisation that a person with such incredible esteem, the esteem that he's held within the community and integrity, is willing to keep putting his name to our organisation. So we're very proud of our association with Bernie over so many years.
Yeah, hats off to Bernie. Just a slight side note there. So Bernie's obviously been the paediatrician for many children in Geelong, and some of them are my children that he's worked with, and I think we spoke about on the last episode that Gateways has provided services to some of my children who are on the autism spectrum, and Bernie was their original paediatrician. Yes. So the circle continues.
It is quite remarkable the number of people whenever I mention, and so we're going way off on a tangent here, but once a month we do staff induction for all new staff, and I like to meet all of the staff who are joining Gateways and I make this point around Bernie Jenner, and it's amazing how many people say, oh, he was my doctor when I was a child, or he was the doctor of my children. So yes,
he's kind of an institution.
He is an institution, and we're very proud of our association with Bernie, and I think it's a testimony to Gateways and the services that we provide, that such a person is willing to continue to put his name to our organisation. So Bernie and his colleagues, and obviously Bernie would tell this story a lot better than I can because he could tell it in the first person, but he has explained to me that they identified that there was effectively a gap in the service provision for children on autism spectrum, and so set about doing something about it and created, it wasn't called Gateways at that time, but started an organisation to provide those services. A short time after that, I believe in the 90s, there was an amalgamation of 3 services that were doing similar kinds of work, and that was the inauguration of Gateways in the mid 1990s, which is the entity that we are existing as today.
It's no small feat to been around for that long. Now let's fast forward to you taking on board the CEO role not long before we had our podcast. Now, can you remember when it was? It's got to be sort of 18 months ago, thereabouts.
Something like that, yes.
Yeah, a fair bit's happened in the last 18 months. Like you said, you could blink and it's gone, but in the other sense, it probably feels like an eternity. What have been some of the challenges that you've experienced? And it's probably a question for both of you. I'll let you sort of wax lyrically on this, but what have been some of the biggest challenges over the course of the last 12, 18 months with Gateways delivering services and sort of maintaining its viability as an organisation in the Geelong community? Yeah,
the parallels with any other business in the Geelong area are absolutely clear, in the sense that we are a not-for-profit organisation by legal definition, and that means that we are not legally allowed to distribute our profits or surpluses to shareholders. Everything else that we do, every business owner or business operator listening to this podcast would say, yeah, well, we've got those same challenges as well. The fact is that Gateways has had to professionalise or commercialise our approach, be more business-like. We needed to look at areas that that were costing us money, that were dragging us down, so to speak, financially, and threatening our financial viability. We've worked through all of that. We've refreshed our board, and not to disparage previous board members, they did an absolutely unbelievable job, but the benefits that come with bringing new ideas and new contributions from directors, that's always going to help to improve the organisation. We've got a new executive team, different from probably when we spoke. I think from memory I had Jandy Watts, our marketing manager, with me at the time. She's now our chief customer officer, and we've completely refurbished or reorganised our team to be more impactful and more effective with the work that we do. We've got a new strategic plan that's been in place for about 12 months, and what that has done for us is helped us to focus on the services, to identify the services that we do best, that our community needs the most, and make sure that we're delivering them in a manner that's required and in locations that people need them most. So it's helped us to be really laser focused on what we do well, think about the things that perhaps are not so much our core business that others may have expertise in and that can do better, and then to refine that down to a really high quality offering. And if you do look in our strategic plan that's on our website, you'll see the word quality appear a number of times, even in the one-page document, that we are determined that we want to continue to be that point of difference to perhaps other service offerings that are out in the community, in that we want to be able to meet the needs of people in a really high quality, effective way. And I guess to put it in business terms, we're not interested in a race to the bottom on price, and that does create its challenges, because to provide a quality service costs more money than not, and therefore that circles back to that conversation we were having a few minutes ago about financial viability and making sure that we're very impactful with everything that we do, all the decisions that we make, and it probably wasn't even on our radar 18 months ago, Jay, but we're now turning our mind to AI and the role that might play, or in fact, James will talk about is already playing in our approach to make the work that we do more efficient, so that therefore there's more dollars available to spend on the people that need them most.
I think we were talking before, I'm not sure whether we're recording, when we started talking about the sort of the parallels between sort of business and not-for-profit. And I wrote a couple of notes as you were speaking there, that when you see the way broadly, you see it in all things. I just had a podcast that had nothing to do with a not-for-profit organisation, and the things that we talked about, there were three of them. Strategy, so having a defined vision and mission, the structure, so the organisational structure of a business and organisation, and systems, so how we actually create efficiencies. That idea of those three S's, and it's so interesting hearing that in your context as a not-for-profit, hearing it in my podcast just previously talking about financial planning businesses. Again, you see the same commonality across the board. Maybe I'll defer to you, James, here in terms of let's go straight to the sort of the system side of things and creating efficiencies. As the Chief Financial Officer, obviously your brief, I'm going to assume, is to try to make sure that we generate more income and reduce expenses. One of the ways you do that, or one of the levers you have to pull, is to create some efficiencies and make better use of the resources that you have. How has tech overlaid with that, and what are the other efficiency gains you've had?
Yeah, well, tech plays obviously a very important role in creating efficiencies. As you said before, I guess my role is to make sure we're as financially efficient as we possibly can be, so we can maximise the services that we provide to the participants in the community. Tech is very important when it comes to creating those efficiencies. We've got what we've done when I started. We've also employed a director of ICT, and she's come in and we've developed an ICT roadmap. So ICT,
what's ICT?
Oh God! Help me out here.
Information Communication Technology is the acronym.
There you go. So
we love our acronyms, don't we? I've got 1,000 of them.
It's just natural to me to say ICT. I know what it means. I don't know what the words mean. But effectively, we've developed a roadmap. We had to start from the bottom down. We're almost completed a network and infrastructure upgrade. And once we've got that done, we're going to be looking at system implementation, and the key is that the systems need to integrate with each other. Once we get that in place, we can get some AI to again create efficiencies. So we're at the stage now that probably in about three months' time, we've laid the foundations. I keep on saying to Rohan, it's like building a house. We've got the foundations, we've got the slab down, but now in about 3 months' time we get to build the house, and it's exciting for us. And I guess if I get it back to finances, we now, and part of the strategic plan is to have a financially sustainable organisation, because we need money to pay for the technology. So I came into Gateways and we had some significant financial challenges. We have we implemented in a financial management improvement plan, which had about 30 odd strategies how to improve our financial situation. We've implemented a fair bit of that to the point that next financial year we'll be putting up a budgeted surplus, which is great. On top of that, it gives us cash flow to invest into our technologies, to create the efficiencies, to create savings as we go forward. So.
Yeah, I think that idea, of writing down as you were talking, that idea of working out what are the things in an organisation you can automate, you can delegate, or you delete altogether. They're the processes that are redundant, and we've been doing them that way because it's just the way we've always done it. And I think it takes sometimes that systematic review of your situation, and to your credit, Rohan, actually realigning the vision and mission that people can all agree to and be on board with. I was saying again in conversations just today about the importance of making sure that your vision and your mission and your strategy are clearly disseminated through everyone in the organisation, so that everyone is on board with where you're actually headed. So what, from your perspective, Rohan, other than sort of some of the financial rectifications and improvements that have been made, you mentioned specifically maybe the change of board. I'm interested in what decisions you made around organisational structure and how you decided what roles you would pass out of the CEO responsibility into other areas of responsibility. How did you think about that?
Yeah, thanks, Jay. So we adopted at executive level what's often referred to as the C-suite structure, so the chief titles, and that was very intentional because we wanted to convey to the community that we are a business, and we're a not-for-profit business, but we are a business. And when you're dealing, with bank managers or other executives, they understand what a CFO is. Everyone, in corporate world knows that title. Whereas if we were to give some of those titles, perhaps what not-for-profits tend to do, more kind of innovative or localised titles, and you're constantly explaining your role. So we've adopted that C-suite title. The CFO is obvious. Chief People Officer is always obvious. The equivalent is going to be in every organisation. I mentioned Jandy Watts, our Chief Customer Officer, and that was quite deliberate in falling out of the strategic plan, because I said earlier that we identified through that strategic planning process that we wanted to remain laser focused on the customer in using that term in a business sense. In our term, in our wording, we would usually say client or the person that we support. But obviously, they are absolutely they have primacy in all of our thinking, all of our decision making.
So we're talking about the C-suite.
Can't get good help
nowadays. No, that's right. Well, it probably follows on from good help, doesn't it? You were talking about the sort of organisational restructure of the business or Gateways. Tell us a little bit about that C-suite approach.
Yeah. So as we were saying, Chief Financial Officer, Chief People Officer, I think are obvious, and we don't need to spend too much time talking about those roles. They are literally what it says on the can. But I think the really innovative role that we adopted was the Chief Customer Officer for an organisation like ours, because we wanted to send a message to our community that we are laser focused on the customer, using that term in a business sense. We don't use it internally. We talk about client or participant or just the people we support, the people we provide services to. And Jandy Watts in that role, it's quite a wide-ranging role. It's everything from the customer journey, from the moment a potential customer rings or puts an inquiry on the website, all the way through to end of customer journey. I won't say end of life, that's has a different meaning, but end of customer journey, someone's exited our services and is looking for services elsewhere or doesn't need any specialist services anymore. So we're looking at that. We look at the quality of the services we provide and how do we know, what's our feedback that we get from our community in terms of informal feedback, but also formal feedback like surveys and so on. There's quite a lot to the role, but that role is everything about putting the person at the centre and then making sure that everything that hangs off that, whether it's in James's area, the financial invoicing and so on, whether it's in the people space, have we got the right staff supporting them, etc., hangs off that core role of the Chief Customer Officer.
Were there any other additions in the C-suite that didn't exist before your tenure that you've decided to include, or maybe even talk to the board structure? I know that you said before that the board has had a change. Yeah. What sort of expertise have you brought in at board level?
Well, the first one first, the other role that we created that didn't exist in any form before, and again, it's obvious to any business operator, but Chief Operations Officer, we elevated Sean Justin, who many listeners will know. He's a stalwart of our community. He's been in the disability sector for more than 30 years. At Gateways, actually, for more than 30 years, probably goes back further than that in the disability sector. And that was quite deliberate because the Gateways that I inherited tended to operate along funding silos, and the problems that flow from that, the left hand not knowing what the right hand's doing, so to speak, replication of effort and so on. And so by putting Sean above or across, I should say, all service delivery, it's allowed us to be a lot more efficient with our allocation of human resources, our development of policies and procedures, all of the different bits and bobs that go with the back end of making sure that we're providing a quality service. At board level, we've got a new chair, relatively new. She's been in the role now for about 12 months, Jackie Malik from LBW here in Geelong. She's doing a fantastic job as chair. New deputy chair, Cassandra Gravenel, also a Geelong stalwart. And we've brought in a number of other directors, Chris Davies, for example, who's very strong in the tech space, and it won't surprise you to hear that we needed to bolster our capacity on board because of our earlier conversation around tech and AI and where the world's heading with all of that. I won't rattle them all off. You can look on our website, but there are a few key call-outs.
Yeah, Chris Davies is a good human. I've known Chris for a long time. Used to sweat with him down at CrossFit Geelong, and he used to look after the tech here at Burke, Britton for a number of years. So yeah, he's a I think he'd be a welcome addition to the board.
100%.
Yeah. Any other significant challenge? We've talked about sort of the financial challenges, the resourcing, efficiencies, technology. What are some of the other challenges, or what have been some of the other real wins that you've had over the course of the last 18 months?
Let's do one key call out of the challenges first. Probably the most difficult aspect of operating in the disability space is policy uncertainty. And I recall we spoke last time, it was probably quite hot off the press, the findings of the Disability Royal Commission, and there also had been an NDIS review. NDIS is National Disability Insurance Scheme, and it's the primary funder now of disability services in Australia. Not the only funder actually, but it's the main game. And as a sector and as an organisation, we're constantly we're waiting for clear guidance from government about whether these recommendations are accepted and or what the implications are going to be for organisations like ourselves. So, for example, we provide a service called support coordination. Support coordinators are really a linchpin of service provision for a person with a disability, helping them to navigate what is quite a complex disability marketplace, linking participants to services and advising them on what's out there and making sure that they're getting their needs met. There's a proposal in the NDIS review that support coordinators are replaced with navigators. This has been talked about for 2 years now, and we haven't got any clearer information from government what exactly that might look like. And so there's that uncertain cloud hanging over support coordination. Our team do a fantastic job, and they're just rocking on and getting...
So practically, what does that mean?
We don't know.
So, but potentially, what does it mean? So if funding was to reduce significantly for coordinators, what does that mean to Gateway's ability to deliver services? I
can really only give you the world according to Rohan here, because we just don't have the guidance from government. So the best that I can glean from public utterances from ministers and others is that support coordination will be replaced with the navigator role, which will be external from and independent from any direct service provider. And the intention's noble. That the fear is, or the concern is, that if Gateways is providing, for example, lots do it, is providing support coordination, and in some cases the support coordinator is referring Gateways services as being the best offering for that person, there's an implied or real conflict of interest. So that's the concern that's looking to be addressed. The scenario might be that government announces that support coordination, to the extent that it exists within a broader, a multi-service provider organisation, will cease as of X date, and these navigation services will commence. The opportunity might be for Gateways to form a navigation business independent, and clearly you would need to be able to demonstrate at arm's length from the service provision business, a bit like, within the Wesfarmers Group, there's multiple businesses that don't necessarily rely on each other to provide, for the services that they provide. A little bit like that model, perhaps not quite as big as Wesfarmers in the first instance, but that model nonetheless. That's what we're thinking at the moment. We don't want to exit that part of the market. We think it provides a really important service to people with disabilities and fills a real need, and we want to continue for that to be part of our core offering, but we'll need to be able to roll with the punches, so to speak, and navigate that change as it occurs.
And at this point in time, we provide over 30,000 service hours annually, so it's a lot of service hours there.
Yeah, it'd be disappointing to see that disrupted in any significant capacity. But even think about this idea of sort of vertical integration of services. I mean, talking corporate world, I've seen it in sort of financial planning world, where the real or perceived conflict of interest ultimately leads organisations to need to have that sort of little bit of independence. But the challenge is making sure that the end consumer, like the end client, the end customer, doesn't have their services disrupted, particularly when there's such a significant need. So is there any other sort of risk mitigation factors you're putting in place to sort of secure both eventualities?
The only risk mitigation that we can see that we've got available to us at the moment is constantly scenario planning.
Yes.
And obviously drawing as much information as we possibly can. So attending every workshop and every seminar, and watching every podcast, or listening to every podcast, and watching every video conference and so on, to try and extract as much information as we can, so we're making the informed decisions as we go. But it is quite difficult, and especially now we've moved into a caretaker mode with government. There's another couple of months, realistically, we're going to lose in terms of any real announcements or any certainty as we roll into a new budget, for example. That's got to be done in isolation from that information. But hey, it'll be no surprise to any business operator, will it, that we're operating in an area of uncertainty, and we need to be able to navigate through that and manage through it.
Is that the biggest risk that you see in delivery of services in the future? Is that kind of the uncertainty around sort of government legislation, or is there other things that you think that equally as provide as much risk that you need to mitigate against?
We talked about AI and tech more generally. My view is that that part of delivering or running an organisation contains risk and opportunity in equal measure. I was at the Australian Governance Summit run by AICD a few weeks ago, and a speaker there said, if you're not already using AI on a daily basis, you're already behind. You know, it's no longer something you can say, oh, we'll wait and see, or, you know, we'll get a toe in the water or whatever. So there's downside risk with not doing something about that. You introduce there, you know, cyber security elements to that. You know, I live in fear of these deep fakes. It's fact that my face and voice, for example, is out there, and, you know, we have to be certain that our CFO and our management team are protected against the deepfake CEO contacting them and directing transfer of funds. There's all sorts of risks associated in that space, but I think my personal view is that the opportunities, you know, as I said, they're there in equal measure, and we've just got to balance out addressing the risks, but also getting on with seizing the opportunities.
So maybe on opportunities, James, or maybe ask you the question, if you're looking forward as CFO, what are the biggest opportunities with Gateways? What can we improve in terms of service delivery, or, you know, where are the great opportunities to operate in the Geelong community and beyond, obviously?
Yeah. Well, our main opportunities, the way I see it, is growth. So we grow what we're good at. So we grow accommodation. We have more houses servicing more participants. We've got a fantastic kinder inclusion program. Grow that. There's a lot of youngsters out there that need support at kinder, and it's forever growing. So we just see the growth there. So they're probably the two areas that will grow, and there's the opportunity to just continue not only to provide what we do, but what we do well as well. Yeah.
Do you mind if I make a comment around the Kinder Inclusion Program, Jay? And we've talked a lot about the challenges and opportunities of business, and it makes sense that we talk about that, especially on a financial services podcast. But that's not what gets James and my head off the pillow in the morning. It's actually the difference that we make in the community and the impact that we have. And I actually love the KISS program, it's called. Someone got clever with an acronym at some point, Kindergarten Inclusion Supports. I've got an education background way back when I was a teacher, and the data tells us that children who miss early years of education fall behind statistically on life outcomes really for the rest of their lives in terms of their school achievement and getting a job, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So we know how important early learning is those early years are to children's learning. Kids with disabilities are often excluded from their early learning opportunities because it's hard for the kinders to accommodate them, and we get that. It can be challenging to assimilate a child with a disability into a kinder program. This program is funded by the state government, and I credit the Victorian government for continuing to fund this program to provide staff, which we make available, to work with the kinder and to support that child to attend, a child with a disability, to attend a mainstream early learning centre, whether it's kinder or other opportunities. And I just think it's a fantastic story of the difference that we can make, because, as I said earlier, we know that the statistics say that child experiencing that early learning opportunity will have better life outcomes all the way through into adulthood. And I just think that's so exciting to think about.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's I think sometimes it's important, like we've talked about business and the correlation between the corporate world and governance and board structure, but at the end of the day, it's what you're there to deliver and the difference you make in people's lives. Maybe let's close on a call to action. I know some people will listen to this podcast and be super interested on the structural side of things, so the strategy of how Rohan and James have improved and made leaps and bounds in Gateways over the course of the last 18 months. But if there's listeners out there that want to do something, whether it be get involved with Gateways, volunteer, contribute monetarily, whether they're looking for work in the disability space, what is your call to action to the listeners? If you had a couple, it could be 1, 2, 3, what would it be?
Thanks, Jay. So the first port of call is always the website, www.gateways.com.au. And from there you can navigate to all of those opportunities that you've just mentioned. Whether you'd like to donate, there's obviously a portal through to jobs that are open at Gateways at the moment. Our strategic plan I mentioned earlier is on the website if someone wanted to have a look, as is